15 FBI raids, all taking place last Thursday. New today, we're demanding answers from those in charge of the Safe Streets program and city leadership on how your tax dollars are being spent. Then a vacant mansion up in flames.
And all I could see was this big old blaze of nothing but fire up in the air.
Our team continues to shine a spotlight on the issue, putting public safety at risk. Plus, jury selection begins for the federal trial of Baltimore's former state's attorney. We hear from a legal expert on the impact today's decisions could have on the rest of the trial.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 4.
Well, days after the FBI raided a Safe Streets location, some new information is coming in.
And as a result, there's a lot to unpack regarding our investigation into Safe Streets. We're working for you, taxpayers, investigating how your money is being spent.
Does the city have an obligation to be more transparent with the public?
I think it's probably better asked of the organization.
Should they be audited? Again, it clearly lacks the hands-on oversight that the mayor and the administration should be providing.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Mary Bubala.
And I'm Kai Jackson. Tonight, we're taking you through all the angles of our investigation and breaking it down.
We begin with Mackenzie Frost and the latest details that she has for us. Mackenzie?
Yeah, Mary and Kai, as we are learning, the FBI made more than a dozen raids last week, in addition to that raid that was done at the Bel Air Edison Safe Streets site on Thursday. Now we have 3 Safe Streets employees who are on leave, at least 1 person facing charges, and that Safe Streets location is currently not active. David Caldwell, he is the site supervisor for this Safe Streets location, we know is facing state-level charges related to ammunition that was found at his house during one of those FBI raids. Now, according to court documents that we obtained, in addition to that ammunition that was seized, the FBI and other law enforcement agencies also seized documents, computers, USB files, as well as drug packaging material. Now, earlier today, I spoke with Tyrone Powers, a former FBI agent, and he talks about how several people had to sign off on these raids before they took place, and he expects other people will have to answer questions as this investigation unfolds.
I think you'll see many more people involved, not just the individual workers per se, but other people that knew or should have known will come out in paperwork. They will interview other individuals that they believe should have been providing appropriate oversight.
Now, I sent questions to Mayor Brandon Scott at his office today, asking if he's been questioned by the FBI. I also sent a few other questions. Here's a list of what we are asking the mayor. Given the FBI raid and the history of issues with Safe Streets, do you have any plans to halt the program citywide? We understand the Bel Air Edison location is currently inactive. Who made that decision? How long will that site be closed? And are you prepared to provide an outside audit or an investigation of the Safe Streets program? Now, this afternoon, I did just get word from the mayor's office that the mayor has not been questioned by the FBI, but we are still waiting to get answers on all of those other questions that we sent his office earlier this morning. Now, coming up at 5, we'll take a look at the questions we're asking the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement, or MONSE, about this FBI investigation as we continue to demand answers about Safe Streets. We're live in the newsroom. Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
Mackenzie, thank you. Well, Fox 45 News is committed to tracking down how your tax dollars are being spent. Let's take a look at what we know about how Safe Streets spends your money. LifeBridge Health and Catholic Charities are the 2 community-based organizations that run the Safe Streets locations. The city sends millions of your tax dollars to those 2 organizations to fund the program. LifeBridge runs the Bel Air Edison office that the location that was raided by the FBI last week. And we have a number of questions for the group's board and its vice president of violence intervention, Adam Rosenberg, because we want to know more about the city's role in these programs. Let's begin with the questions that we sent Mr. Rosenberg.
When did you first learn about the FBI investigation? What, if any, knowledge of possible criminal activity at Bel Air Edison do you have? Have you initiated an investigation at Bel Air Edison and other LifeBridge sites? Are you concerned the lack of accountability regarding Safe Streets and the FBI raid will cause negative consequences for your reputation? When will you open the books on all Safe Streets operations? Are the suspended employees receiving pay? If not, will you return the taxpayer dollars to the city?
We also have questions for the LifeBridge board. We sent the following questions to them. When did you first learn of possible criminal activity at Bel Air Edison? Who actually approves the hiring of Safe Streets employees? Who trained the employees at the Bel Air Edison site? What were the programs, training, curriculums that were used? Can you please provide the names and backgrounds of the suspended employees?
And now to living classrooms, another key to figuring out what's going on at the Bel Air Edison location. The nonprofit used to run that site before the mayor announced structural changes to the program at the end of last year. And here are the questions we sent them.
Why did you decide to remove yourself from Safe Streets? Why did you remove yourself from the Bel Air Edison site? How many taxpayer dollars are you still receiving for any and all activities that relate directly or indirectly at living classrooms? Are you now involved directly or indirectly with the FBI's investigation of Bel Air Edison Safe Streets? What was the process of recruiting these individuals? Did you run ads or were they referred to you from city agencies? How did you find these candidates?
Well, Living Classrooms did respond to our questions today. It says it did not decide to remove itself from the Safe Streets program or the Bel Air Edison Safe Streets site. Instead, the city made the decision to transfer oversight to LifeBridge and Catholic Charities. It also says it is not receiving any public funding for activities related to Safe Streets, and it is not involved with the FBI investigation into Safe Streets. Living Classrooms goes on to say, quote, the recruitment and hiring process for all Safe Streets sites is led by Mosby and engages stakeholders, including Mosby, BPD, and community members. It says we should ask Mosby for more information about the hiring process. Fox 45 News has reached out to Mosby about Safe Streets hiring practices. They've told us while the office has a hand in the screening process, they do not hire for Safe Streets, and Safe Streets workers are not city employees.
We're pressing the City Council about the oversight of Safe Streets. Most members of the City Council support an audit, but don't support an independent investigation of the program. The council can play a big role in figuring out what's going on, so we sent all members of the City Council the following questions. Should city funding for Safe Streets be suspended until there is an audit or investigation of the program? Do you trust LifeBridge and Catholic Charities with your tax dollars? Given the history of criminal activity in Safe Streets and now the FBI raid, do you support halting Safe Streets activity until an independent investigation or audit of the program? Given the FBI and your organization's refusal to engage with the media, is it time to open the books about the Safe Streets operation? Fox 45 News is committed to investigating the program for taxpayers. We want to hear from you. Should the Safe Streets program be shut down pending an investigation or audit? You can vote by going to foxbaltimore.com/vote.
Jury selection in Marilyn Mosby's perjury case is underway. It is the first major step in a trial that's starting this week. Opening statements are expected to begin on Thursday. Coming up at 4:30, we're going to take a closer look at jury selection and talk with a legal expert about the impact it can have on the entire trial.
It's Halloween night, and it feels like the fall weather rolled in just in time for trick-or-treating. This is a live look right now at the Inner Harbor, Towson, and also our weather radar. Chief Meteorologist Jonathan Myers is here to tell us how much we need to bundle up tonight.
Yeah, some beautiful shots here of the leaves, and it's this type of weather that's going to continue to get those leaves peaking and changing. Good news is the rain that we saw as our latest weather maker came through, that continues to push south and east and away. Look to the north. There's snow and ice near the Great Lakes, so I guess it could be worse, right? Temperatures in the low to mid 50s right now. We do have some patchy clouds, a little bit of a breeze, but it doesn't feel too bad. Temperatures may be feeling a couple of degrees colder than the actual temperature through 4 p.m. through 6 p.m. as trick-or-treating is really getting underway. You're going to need some maybe some long underwear, some long johns, as well as potentially a jacket with that Halloween costume. 6 p.m. temperature of 51, going to 46 at 9 and 43, feeling like 40 as everything's wrapped up at about midnight tonight, and all the candy has been eaten. Coming up in a couple of minutes, I'm going to let you know when we could have some frosty overnight temperatures. We've got some freeze watches out. That's in my Weather Authority forecast.
Baltimore police are investigating after they say a crash led to the discovery of a 16-year-old who had been shot.
Now, that teen was pronounced dead at a local hospital, and now we're learning The homicide may have stemmed from an armed carjacking.
Alexa Ashwell is live in Northeast Baltimore, where police say the teen was shot. Alexa?
Yes, Kai, Mary, and just minutes ago, we got our hands on that police report. In it, investigators identify the 16-year-old who was shot and killed and list the motive as robbery. It goes on to say two of the teen's friends, two other teens, were driving him to the hospital after he was shot here on Bowley's Lane, and that the car they were in had been reported stolen out of Baltimore County 2 days ago.
I was in the kitchen and heard gunshot.
They were really, really loud. It caught my attention.
Neighbors in Northeast Baltimore's Frankford and Parkside communities rattled. Here on Bowley's Lane is where police say a 16-year-old was shot after 11 last night. The teen discovered about 3 miles away after reports of a car crash near Johns Hopkins Hospital. There, he was pronounced dead.
It don't make sense for the young kids to be out here.
Baltimore police say investigators are still piecing together exactly what happened. Officers first discovered the teen after responding to reports of a car crash involving several vehicles here on Orleans Street, about a half mile from Johns Hopkins Hospital. The 16-year-old had a fatal gunshot wound. Investigators determined he had been shot 3 miles away by an unidentified suspect here on Bowley's Lane, but have yet to confirm what neighborhood leaders say that it stemmed from a carjacking. Several neighbors confirming they heard the gunshots. One man detailing his wife heard a scuffle that also woke up their dog before those shots rang out.
I'm a little bit curious. So what is going on and why is it happening right here?
Questions, and for some, the frustration mounting.
16, 17, 18, even probably younger than that. There's people that's 13, 14 that's doing crimes and all of that. But really, you have a future in your life. You don't have to do any of this.
So still a lot of moving parts to this investigation. Again, police confirming a 16-year-old shot and killed here on Bowley's Lane. That report identifying him, we are holding off on that. The ages of the other two teens named and listed in that report, 18 and 15. We're told the 18-year-old was taken to homicide to be interviewed by detectives, and the 15-year-old to the juvenile booking facility. We'll continue to ask questions in this case as the investigation develops. For now, reporting live in Northeast Baltimore, Alexa Ashwell, Fox 45 News.
I was just scared for my life, you know what I mean? Bullets started flying.
A Hampden resident takes cover when teens start shooting at each other in his neighborhood. The growing calls to hold young criminals accountable.
What type of impact will the jury selection have on the Mosby trial? We'll break down the latest developments from court.
And next, the Firefighters Union says vacant homes are threatening lives. Why they say the city needs to do more to protect firefighters.
This is a look at what's left after a fire last night in an abandoned mansion in West Baltimore. That massive fire in the vacant building is intensifying the debate over what Baltimore should do with its abandoned and vacant homes. Fox 45's Maxine Stryker joins us live with a closer look at what remains of that house. Maxine?
Well, Kai, not very much. As you can see, the fire department's still here. They've been here all day. They continue to saturate what's left with water to ensure no flare-ups. You can see all that's left is this once historic, beautiful mansion is now just a giant pile of rubble. Tuesday morning along Old Frederick Road. Firefighters were still hard at work hosing off the charred remains of what was once a stunning Victorian mansion.
And I saw what I thought was a cloud of, like rain clouds coming through or something.
Video from the Citizen app shows the flames tearing through the abandoned home last night.
And all I could see was this big old blaze of nothing but fire up in the air.
According to the fire department, the 3-alarm fire was intensified by high winds, bringing a total of nearly 100 firefighters to the scene. The mansion had been vacant, according to fire officials.
I thought it was, secure.
But it's unclear exactly how the fire started. Property tax records list the mayor and city council as the owners, purchasing the property in 2010 for just over $14 million. We asked the mayor's office what the plans were for it and how long has it been vacant.
It brings memories back to me because this once was the New Psalmist Baptist Church. And we used to share the mansion. We had connection classes in the mansion. And it's, holy ground as far as I'm concerned.
The current number of vacant properties in Baltimore sits at a staggering 13,766. 92% are privately owned, and they continue to be a hazard to firefighters.
It's something that we operate on every day. They're a hazard for us every day.
In Northwest Baltimore nearly 2 weeks ago, a fire claimed the lives of 2 firefighters. The home in which the fire originated was occupied, but it was surrounded by vacant homes that also caught fire. How it started is still under investigation.
More often than not, we're finding people in vacant homes and we're pulling them out and, making a difference.
3 firefighters were also killed during a vacant home fire along Stricker Street last January. The home was not only abandoned, but had been on fire twice before. Information firefighters didn't have. It renewed calls for more to be done to address the issue, and after a scathing report on failures from that day, the fire chief resigned. But Matt Coster with the Firefighters Union says whatever the city is doing now still isn't enough.
From our standpoint, I don't think so.
Now, the housing department actually responded to our questions that we sent to the mayor's office. They tell us this area was targeted as part of the Uplands development that was awarded back around 2007, but it's still unclear what exactly the city had planned to do with this abandoned mansion. Reporting live in West Baltimore, Maxine Stryker, Fox 45 News.
And for our full coverage of the fire, along with years of reporting on Baltimore's vacant home issues, head to foxbaltimore.com.
All right, the little ghost ghouls and goblins getting ready to do some trick-or-treating this evening, and the rain is staying away down to our south from Virginia Beach all the way to Richmond. So good news for us here. It is going to be dry. That's our latest weather maker that now is moving its way south and east and away. Notice north and west around Columbus. There's some snow approaching. Could even have some flurry snow showers up around Chicago for trick-or-treating there. Not here, though. It's just a sign of that colder air. And yeah, that's here. We had 80s yesterday. Today, we promised you 50s, and there you go. We were at 54 last hour. Now it's mostly cloudy and 52. Winds variable at 3, humidity 46%. And a bone dry dew point. That's our measure of moisture in the air at 32 degrees. Even with that little wind, feels more like probably about 50 as the kids may be getting home and getting in their costumes. You see the kind of slate gray autumn skies out there right now. Temperature of 54 this afternoon. That was our high here in Baltimore. Not scary weather, if you will, but I guess a fall treat, we'll say. 54 at Westminster, 50 degrees at Hagerstown, making it to 54 out on the eastern shore around Cambridge. Oakland Way up at Deep Creek Lake, only 41 this afternoon. Temperatures, they're hovering the low to mid 50s. Notice temperatures are about 20 degrees colder than they were, even up to 30 degrees colder than they were just 24 hours ago. And this is where our temperatures go this evening. Notice the 40s feeding in from the north and west. That's what you can expect, I think, for trick-or-treating. That warmer, summery air continues to get shoved off the coast. And then look at that snow around Chicago up toward Detroit. That won't make it, but the colder air will continue to feed in. Tomorrow could even be a degree or two colder than today with a gustier wind as this latest weather maker finally pulls east and we firmly get into that more kind of Canadian type of air. Now notice by 5:15 that clearing line continues to haul south and east. There are your 40s for trick-or-treating. So that's what you have to prepare for. You're going to have a few layers on under that costume. By midnight tonight, we're dropping down into the 40s, even some 30s. And by the way, we do have a freeze watch for tomorrow night, area-wide. Now, notice some of these little spot showers potentially coming through. I wouldn't say it's impossible. There could be a flurry north and west on into early tomorrow morning. And then during the day on Wednesday, high temperatures struggling in the 40s to near 50. We'll be in the low to mid 50s at best. Again, that chance of a sprinkler, maybe a light flurry north and west, not out of the question. There's your frosty start into early Thursday. That's where we have the freeze watches out area wide. And then it looks like it's back to the 60s, a little more normal by the weekend.
Jonathan, thank you. Teens in Hampden shooting at each other in the middle of the day. The concerns from community members who say they're not safe in their own neighborhoods.
I'm Christine Frizzau on Capitol Hill, where the topic of funding multiple wars has become front and center. I'll take a look at the chief arguments and the pushback.
Continuing coverage on the war in Israel. Word today that an Israeli airstrike has struck Gaza's largest refugee camp. It comes as Israel continues to inch closer to Gaza City in a forceful ground invasion. Israel says it has hit more than 300 military targets today, including tunnels used by Hamas. In the West Bank, Israel destroyed the home of a senior Hamas leader. And in Cyprus, government officials are working with the European Union to provide humanitarian aid from the sea. They plan to ship essential materials to Gaza during proposed humanitarian pauses to the fighting. In the Senate, protesters interrupted a hearing on renewed aid packages to Israel and Ukraine. Protesters painted their hands red and held signs asking for the end of the war and for Gaza to be freed. And as protesters gather, debate continues in the Capitol as senators mull over President Biden's $105 billion aid package for Ukraine and Israel. The National Desk's Christine Frizzau has more on the debate and the package's chances of making it through Congress.
On the global stage, the battlefield is expanding, along with the needs to support multiple wars with no end in sight. In Ukraine, more than 20 months after being invaded by Russia, resources are dwindling. And a brand new war in the Middle East as Israel seeks to destroy Hamas following the October 7th massacre, launching multiple attacks inside Gaza, where the terror group is based.
Like Israel, Ukraine was the victim of an unprovoked attack by a repeat violent offender.
Those battles front and center in Washington, with a push for Congress to approve a $105 billion aid package for Ukraine, Israel, Taiwan, and also the border.
This is all one fight.
Secretary of State Antony Blinken and Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin appearing together on Capitol Hill to make the case the actions taken by Washington now will determine the security of the world for generations to come.
And only firm American leadership can ensure that tyrants and thugs and terrorists worldwide are not emboldened to commit more aggression and more atrocities.
More aggression, which they argue could lead to Russian President Putin going after a NATO country next, which would in turn draw the United States in.
America does not have the luxury of burying our head in the sand or leaving our friends to fend for themselves.
That largely bipartisan show of support stands in sharp contrast with the mindset on the other side of the Capitol. The Republican majority in the House has just put forth a standalone bill to provide aid to Israel.
There are lots of things going on around the world that we have to address, and we will. But right now, what's happening in Israel takes the immediate attention, and I think we've got to separate that and get it through.
That pushback against aiding Ukraine comes amid growing skepticism from Americans. An Economist YouGov poll last month showing 52% of those surveyed said military aid to Ukraine should be stopped entirely. A mountain of challenges worldwide bringing increased pressure to Capitol Hill. I'm Christine Frizzau reporting.
Police believe parents may have played a role in a shooting just outside Carver High School. The frustration from community leaders tonight. Marilyn Mosby back in court as jury selection gets underway in her perjury case. Live team coverage straight ahead.
The first steps of the Marilyn Mosby trial are now underway. This is a look at the former city state's attorney arriving at federal court this morning for the start of jury selection. In the trial, Marilyn Mosby is facing 2 perjury charges.
If convicted, she could be sentenced to a maximum sentence of 5 years in federal prison for each of the 2 counts. We have team coverage on the trial. Attorney Jeremy Eldridge will help us break down what we're hearing from the courtroom today.
First, Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost joins us live with the latest on the selection. Mackenzie?
Guy, it was a pretty slow start to this jury selection process happening in Greenbelt earlier today. Inside the courtroom, Marilyn Mosby sat there at the table with her defense team, all while Judge Lydia Grigsby asked these prospective jurors nearly 60 different questions. Some of the questions were pretty routine, wanting to know where these potential jurors stood, their views like on the criminal justice system and law enforcement. One of the questions was also if anyone had withdrawn money from their retirement account using the CARES Act. And that's key because that's the crux of this entire perjury trial moving forward. Now, we don't have a list of the full witnesses. We do know there are 19 people on it. That's a combined 19 people from both the federal prosecutors as well as the defense team. And the jury was also asked if they knew certain specific people like Marilyn Mosby herself, as well as her soon-to-be ex-husband Nick Mosby and some close friends and allies of Marilyn Mosby. So we're expecting to weed out some of those potential jurors if they knew any of those people on the list. Kai?
Mackenzie, has the jury been finalized?
Not yet. Like I said, a very slow start to this process. The first round of people included about 60 people, give or take, giving their answers to those first round of questions. And throughout this afternoon, we understand that there's about 6 people who have been selected, meaning tomorrow when jury selection resumes, they will be looking for an additional 6 people as well as 4 alternates for this jury. We're expecting jury selection to take most of the day tomorrow. And as it stands right now, opening statements are scheduled to begin Thursday morning. We're live in the newsroom. Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
All right, Mackenzie, thank you. Let's continue our conversation right now with defense attorney Jeremy Eldridge. Jeremy, thank you for joining us.
Of course.
Well, today, jury selection got underway. Can you break down how important this step is and how it can steer really the rest of the case? They're definitely taking their time.
Look, you can win and lose cases during voir dire, meaning during jury selection, if you're falling asleep at the wheel here. So it's important, whether you're asking 68 questions like you do in federal court or you're asking 27 questions in state court, what you're doing is you're trying to root out bias. And so whether it's trying to find out if potential jurors took money out of CARES Act money, or whether they've read about the case on the news or not, or whether they agreed or disagreed with Marilyn Mosby's prosecutorial policies, these questions are all aimed at one thing, making sure that the government and the defense get a fair trial. And if you get one juror on there, and that's what Marilyn Mosby's hoping for, you get one person that agrees with her prosecutorial policies such that they might buy into the idea she's targeted, even though, frankly, there may not be evidence of it, that's how she can either A, get a mistrial, or B, go home.
Jeremy, how do you view the prosecution strategy versus the defense's strategy, according to what you've read and seen, and how important will discovery be in this process?
I don't think discovery is going to be the main issue here. I think the main issue in this case is that Marilyn Mosby has made it very clear that she believes that she was targeted and that it's a racial targeting. The problem is she's going to face an uphill battle trying to convince a jury because A, the judge has already limited arguments based on race. B, Marilyn Mosby herself in 2020 into 2021 called on Isabel Cumming to initiate this investigation. So the idea that she's going to say Goldilocks and the Three Bears ate my porridge when she invited them over for breakfast isn't probably going to fare well in front of a jury. So what we're really going to see is a document-laden case by the government. They're going to use her own statements together, and the jury is going to have to decide were Marilyn Mosby's statements that her business was non-operational, were those consistent with what she's saying in the court now? And if they're not consistent, is she lying then? Is she lying now? And should we find her guilty or not guilty? And that's the real uphill battle for her because they were her own statements that are going to either weigh her down or going to set her free.
And we've already heard contradictions over the past few months. Jeremy, this process, jury selection, was expected to take 2 days. We're seeing it's already going slowly, and there are complications, delays when it comes just to the Mosby trial itself. Anything that could delay the expected start of the trial on Thursday?
I don't think so. And, you know, it's really, although not discussed, it's not at all uncommon for voir dire to take longer than the case itself. In Baltimore City, if we have a gang case or we have a case that has been highly publicized, oftentimes it could take you 2 to 3 days or 4 days in a co-defendant trial or a high publicity one to pick a jury when the case itself only takes 2 days of witness testimony. So not terribly surprising, but it's not something the public is often aware of.
All right, Jeremy Eldridge, not connected with this case at all, but always giving us analysis. Jeremy, thank you very much. We appreciate it.
My pleasure. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Well, for our full coverage on the Marilyn Mosby trial and the long history of controversies surrounding her, go to our website, foxbaltimore.com.
One was in burst and one was coming like towards him, you know what I mean? And he was just like this, pow, 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 letting loose inside the car. And then he, boom, plowed this and then went up that street, you know what I mean?
Well, those words from a Hampden man telling Fox 45 News he witnessed a shooting between cars this afternoon in the middle of his neighborhood. Fox 45's Amy Simpson live now at that scene. Amy, how scary for him.
Yeah, Mary, take a look at this. Damaged cars like this one and this black truck in front of it are just a small glimpse of what happened here in Hampden today. But take a look at what our cameras saw when we got here about 1 o'clock this afternoon. We saw several cars smashed and sideswiped, forcing neighbors to clean up the mess that was left behind. This all unfolded not far from 41st Street and Buena Vista Avenue. And one neighbor today saying repeatedly, enough is enough. And he told me the suspects he saw, he says they were kids.
They were young, they're really young kids. I could tell they were young. I was just scared for my life, you know what I mean? Bullets start flying, you don't know where they're going, you know what I mean?
And Amy, we've heard from a witness now. What are police saying about what happened today in Hampden?
Yeah, so Mary, that's something we're still trying to get some details and clarity on. Late this afternoon, Baltimore police telling us they don't have reports of a shooting at this address. But again, we did see multiple Baltimore police cruisers and at least one Baltimore City Schools police vehicle here on scene as of late this afternoon. No other details on this investigation and who police may be looking for have been provided. We're live in Hampden. Amy Simpson, Fox 45 News.
Amy, thank you. A Baltimore man is arrested for attempted murder. Police say 37-year-old Daryl Davis shot a 41-year-old woman in North Baltimore in June. That victim was able to take herself to a hospital. Davis is facing first attempted degree murder charges. This year, 226 people have been killed in Baltimore. 545 have been shot and survived. Those numbers are down from last year. The city is seeing, though, a spike in car thefts and juvenile crime.
The crime is increasing. The problem is increasing. Break the door, break the shelf, threatening the employee. There's more than shoplifting.
While some local business owners claim their stores are seeing a rise in robberies, data from BPD tells a different story. According to police, there's been a reduction in robberies this year. As Fox 45's Rebecca Pryor reports, it's now causing some to question how crime is being categorized. Rebecca joins us live with the latest. Rebecca.
That's right, Mary. A local business owner and a former Baltimore police commissioner tell me in their firsthand experience, crime is climbing. But that's not what BPD is reporting. Take a look at this surveillance video from a West Baltimore gas station. The manager says in recent months, thieves terrorizing the store have become a daily occurrence. In one instance, caught on camera, he claims a teenager attempting to take off with stolen goods in a stolen car pointed a gun at him. In another, teens can be seen raiding the shelves, then breaking the shelves, damaging everything they can, in addition to assaulting an elderly employee who tried to stop them. The store manager says these violent encounters rise above a simple shoplifting charge. But according to BPD, they don't.
I feel very bad, you know, because it's not shoplifting. It's like they're coming to your place, they're threatening you with guns sometimes they have a stick, you know, with a knife, and they say, oh, it's shoplifting. How's come?
Now, by legal definition, larceny is considered shoplifting, pocket picking, or the stealing of any property that is not taken by force or violence. That's what BPD categorized these crimes as, even though the store owner is adamant that they were robberies, which by definition does include the threat of force or violence and or putting the victim in fear. Today, I asked BPD to clarify why they labeled these incidents as larceny, despite the violence that was clearly caught on camera. As of news time tonight, though, I've not heard back. Meanwhile, coming up in our full story tonight at 5, I will explain why a former Baltimore police commissioner is accusing BPD of purposefully distorting the data. But for now, reporting live from BPD headquarters, Rebecca Pryor, Fox 45 News.
Thank you, Rebecca. Police believe parents may have instigated a fight that led to a triple shooting outside Carver High School in Baltimore last Friday. 2 15-year-old boys involved in that fight, and a third 16-year-old was shot. Now, the parents of one of the 15-year-olds is facing charges. 40-year-old William Dredden and 37-year-old Tiffany Harrison are each charged with assault and handgun violations. Local activists say the lack of responsibility from the parents is shocking.
In a city like this, with all of the violence we're having with our children, for them to literally arm their child with a weapon, to go back to Carver, to shoot, to beat, to pistol whip, to hurt other children, that's very upsetting.
According to police, the parents and their son drove to the school and approached a group of young people. Investigators say their 15-year-old son pistol whipped the juvenile, then approached another 15-year-old boy and pulled a gun. The boys exchanged gunfire. Both were shot, and both are facing attempted murder charges. Trick or treat can be critical for their recovery. A look at how a special Halloween event is supporting kids fighting illnesses.
And for your Halloween evening, much colder. Temperatures falling back through the 40s, even into the 30s overnight. Kind of a scary cold forecast. I'm going to let you know when things are going to finally warm up. It's my Weather Authority forecast coming up.
Fox 45 is sponsored by Johns Hopkins Children's Center.
After 2 games of the World Series, the series was even, but the Diamondbacks looked unstoppable and like a team that should be up 2-0. But as the series headed to Arizona, things might not be great for that home team. After being about a .500 team in the regular season on the road, the Rangers have won every road postseason game this October, perfect between Tampa Bay, Baltimore, Houston, and now Arizona. The series is guaranteed to stay in Arizona through tomorrow, and the series heads back to Texas if necessary. I don't know if it's going to happen, though, for games 6 and 7 on Friday and Saturday.
Morgan, thank you. And Fox 45 is your exclusive home for the 2023 World Series. You can watch Game 4 tonight right here, starting with pregame coverage at 7. First pitch just after 8 o'clock. Be here. Well, today is Halloween, and we know that you're paying close attention to the weather. And if you and your kids are headed out to trick-or-treat, well, you may have to bundle up a little bit. Here's Chief Meteorologist Jonathan Myers.
Yeah, Kai, layers going to be the way to be. But notice the rain with our latest weather maker. The good news, that's down Ocean City way and point south, not around here. Then I guess it always could be worse. Take a look. Chicago, Detroit, Madison, Wisconsin, you've got snow. That's right, snow for this Halloween. Around here, though, we're in between with just some of the cooler weather. And I mean, it's seriously cooler. Beautiful fall color behind me here on the Mile 1 Tascam. 52 winds variable at about 3 miles an hour. Humidity 46%. Just a memory, that 81 that we had yesterday afternoon. 52 now here in Baltimore, 53 at Cockeysville. Feels even with the light winds a couple degrees cooler than it actually is. So dress for 40s to around 50. That's how it's going to probably stay all the way through much of trick-or-treating this evening. Temperatures are running a Goliath, about 20 degrees colder than 24 hours ago here in Baltimore, all the way down to Annapolis, as well as North Beach. And you get onto the Eastern Shore, it's about 30 degrees colder than 24 hours ago. So a cold front meaning business working through. That's our latest weather maker. Now, north and west temperatures only in the 40s. That's going to feed in all the way through trick-or-treat time this evening. The warmer weather gone. Notice some of the showers left over behind some of that. And then there's the colder weather that continues to set up. It looks like it's going to stay here for at least a couple of days, and even the potential of some freeze conditions coming by tomorrow night. The entire area, in fact, under a freeze watch. Now, take a look. Overnight into early tomorrow morning, looks like temperature settling down into the 40s to around 50. Any of those showers continue to haul south and east. Now, for tomorrow, a mixture of clouds and sunshine. Now, notice late in the day and tomorrow night, clouds increase. What is this? That little disturbance around Chicago, that's going to move eastbound. It'll be drying as it does so, but notice some of the blue there, especially highest elevations north and west. There could potentially be a snowflake mixed in with some stray rain showers and sprinkles. That'll be for most of us. Some chilly rain showers that come through into early on Wednesday morning. And after that, it looks like another chilly day with high temperatures only right about 50 to 55 degrees. So 7-day forecast finishing up today. It's still chilly tonight, down into the low 40s. Tomorrow, 54. Again, there could be a stray shower or sprinkle or maybe even a flurry north and west tomorrow early in the morning. Then a frosty start for Thursday. That's when we have those freeze warnings out. Friday could have some patchy frost as well, but a much milder weekend on the way with the highs back into the 60s.
Thank you, Jonathan. Well, kids at Mount Washington Pediatric Hospital are celebrating Halloween today. Children were able to trick-or-treat and dress up in elaborate costumes to celebrate the holiday inside the hospital. Manager of Child Life and Therapeutic Recreation, Lindy Ashman, explains how important this is for kids and their recovery.
Many of our children are celebrating their first Halloween with us. Many of them are undergoing some extremely stressful situations, whether it be the onset of a new illness or a traumatic injury. So today is just an incredibly magical day where children can kind of transform and put on a costume and just get a chance to be kids.
Well, many of the costumes and decorations for the event were donated by Spirit Halloween and the community. Coming up at 5 o'clock, the conflict in the Middle East causes a major divide on some college campuses. The protests playing out on both sides. And if you want a scare on Halloween night, we have the place for you, getting a first-hand look at the horrors of Legends of the Fog. Weren't those bananas cute? They're Fox 45 team members, everybody. Well, Americans are spending a record amount on Halloween this year, including those banana costumes. The National Retail Federation estimated consumers will shell out, wow, more than $12 billion across the country. On average, shoppers are expected to spend $108 on candy, costumes, and decorations. They're even getting pets involved. The most popular costumes for pets this year, pumpkins and hot dogs. Well, if trick-or-treating isn't for you, there are still plenty of spooky activities around the Baltimore area. Be More Lifestyle's Mark Clark got to experience the frights at Legends of the Fog this morning.
Once again, I'm with one of our favorites, Patrick from Legends of the Fog. And Patrick, you have one of the most frightening experiences in the world. And so you wanted to talk to us about the people that work with you, though, your staff.
Absolutely. Legends of the Fog couldn't happen without our staff. We have 145 average per night to put this whole thing on, from tractor drivers all the way down to the actors.
145 people?
145 people to make this happen.
Wow.
And year-round, we have guys who work on this who also work on the farm. So we have our production team and our prop team and our build crew. So it's amazing to see what we can do with a whole year's time from season to season.
And so you pride yourself on having unique experiences here at Legends of the Fog. And actually, this is one of them.
That's right.
This is just like an elevator, though. What makes this so special?
This is a one-of-a-kind haunted elevator experience that you won't see anywhere else.
You said a haunted elevator experience.
Haunted elevator. Are you ready?
Yeah. I mean, what is this elevator? What could it really be?
I mean, doors closed.
Okay.
You got creepy monsters in here with you.
Okay, wait a minute. Okay.
And you just don't know what's going to happen when you get to the other side.
Hold on tight now. Wait a minute. Who's this guy? Kenny, who's this guy? Okay.
This way to your room.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I get it. I get what you're doing there, Patrick. Legends of the Fog. Hey, what's the hotel called?
The Farewell Hotel.
The Farewell Hotel. Farewell.
By the way, we haven't seen Mark Clark since he was on that elevator. If you know where he is, would you give us a call or tell him to call us? We're kind of concerned right now. We want to see how you're celebrating Halloween tonight. Take a look at this. Darla sending this picture of Desmond dressed up as a cymbal-playing monkey. Very cute, Desmond and Darla, thank you. And this is Drio and Drew as a whirlpool washer and dryer. We love it. Well, those costumes are great. They even have the Tide soap to go along with it. But hopefully there won't be any rain to go along with that. Well, we want to see how you're celebrating Halloween. Send us your pictures and videos by scanning this QR code on your screen or by going to our website, foxbaltimore.com/chime in. Coming up on Fox 45 News at 5 o'clock, new college degrees being offered at some universities having major career success. Why students argue a degree in social media is a top choice. Plus, Fox 45 News continues to investigate the Safe Streets program. New information about multiple FBI raids.
Alarming new findings surrounding the city's flagship violence intervention program. Fox 45 confirms 15 FBI raids all in one day.
Jury selection in former city state's attorney Marilyn Mosby's federal trial. How we got to this point and what comes next.
And no rain, but a spooky chill setting up for tonight for Halloween. I'm going to let you know how cold it's going to get for your neighborhood and when we're finally going to warm up and when there could be some flakes in your forecast. That's in my Weather Authority forecast coming up.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 5.
Well, days after the FBI raided a Safe Streets location, the situation surrounding the program is fluid, constantly changing, really, with new information coming in at all times.
And as a result, there's a lot to unpack regarding our investigation into Safe Streets. We're working for you, taxpayers, investigating how your money is being spent.
Does the city have an obligation to be more transparent with the public?
I think it's probably better asked of the organization.
Should they be audited? Again, it clearly lacks the hands-on oversight that the mayor and the administration should be providing.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for staying with us. I'm Mary Bubala.
I'm Kai Jackson. Tonight, we're taking you through all the angles of our investigation and breaking it down.
We begin with Mackenzie Frost and the latest details on this. Mackenzie?
Yeah, Mary and Kai, we know that the FBI had conducted more than a dozen raids last week, in addition to the raid that was completed at the Bel Air Edison Safe Streets location on Thursday. Now, we're also learning that 3 employees have been suspended. 1 is facing state-level charges, and currently that Bel Air Edison location is inactive. David Caldwell was the site supervisor at the time. He's the one facing state-level charges stemming from ammunition that was found and seized at his home during that FBI raid. According to charging documents that we obtained, in addition to that ammunition, FBI and other law enforcement agents seized computers, documents, USB drives, as well as drug packaging material. Now, earlier today, I spoke with a former FBI agent and law enforcement expert who says that these agents had to get the clearance from several supervisors before these raids took place, signaling that this investigation has been in the works for quite some time. And he also says that he believes more people will be expected to answer questions as this investigation unfolds.
I think you'll see many more people involved, not just the individual workers per se, but other people that knew or should have known will come out in paperwork. They will interview other individuals that they believe should have been providing appropriate oversight.
Earlier today, we sent several questions to the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement, or MONSE, asking about this investigation and what it means for Safe Streets moving forward. Let me read you just some of the questions that we sent to MONSE, asking how long will the Bel Air Edison location remain inactive? Currently, how many open positions are there at the Bel Air Edison site? Are the employees suspended with or without pay? And if without pay, where's that money going? Where are the rest of the Bel Air Edison Safe Streets employees, and have they been reassigned? As of news time, coming on the air right now, MONSE has refused to answer those questions. So far, haven't even acknowledged those questions that we sent via email. As far as the mayor, we're also asking him questions, and as it stands right now, his office telling us that he has not been questioned by the FBI. But stay with us, because at 10 o'clock we'll have more on what the mayor is saying and what's next for Safe Streets and this investigation. We're live in the newsroom. Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
Mackenzie, thank you. Well, Fox 45 News is committed to tracking down how your tax dollars are being spent. Let's take a look at what we know about how Safe Streets spends your money. LifeBridge Health and Catholic Charities are the 2 community-based organizations that run the Safe Streets locations. The city sends millions of your tax dollars to those 2 organizations to fund the program. LifeBridge runs the Bel Air Edison office that the location the FBI raided last week. And we have a number of questions for the group's board and its vice president of violence intervention, Adam Rosenberg, because we want to know more about the city's role in these programs. Let's begin with those questions that we have sent to Mr. Rosenberg. When did you first learn about the FBI investigation? What, if any, knowledge of possible criminal activity at Bel Air Edison do you have? Have you initiated an investigation at Bel Air Edison and other LifeBridge sites? Are you concerned the lack of accountability regarding Safe Streets and the FBI raid will cause negative consequences for your reputation? When will you open the books on all Safe Streets operations? Are the suspended employees receiving pay? If not, will you return the taxpayer dollars to the city?
We also have questions for the LifeBridge board. We sent the following questions to them. When did you first learn of possible criminal activity at Bel Air Edison? Who actually approves the hiring of Safe Streets employees? Who trained the employees at the Bel Air Edison site? What were the programs, training, curriculums that were used? Can you please provide the names and backgrounds of the suspended employees?
And now to Living Classrooms, another key to figuring out what's going on at the Bel Air Edison location. The nonprofit used to run the site before the mayor announced structural changes to the program at the end of last year. Here are the questions we sent them. Why did you decide to remove yourself from Safe Streets? Why did you remove yourself from the Bel Air Edison site? How many taxpayer dollars are you still receiving for any and all activities that relate directly or indirectly at Living Classrooms? Are you now involved directly or indirectly with the FBI's investigation of Bel Air Edison Safe Streets? What was the process of recruiting these individuals? Did you run ads or were they referred to you from city agencies? How did you find these candidates? Living Classrooms did respond to our questions today. It says it did not decide to remove itself from the Safe Streets program or the Bel Air Edison Safe Streets site. Instead, the city made that decision to transfer oversight to LifeBridge and Catholic Charities. It also says it is not receiving any public funding for activities related to Safe Streets, and it is not involved in any way with the FBI investigation into the Bel Air Edison Safe Streets site. Living Classrooms goes on to say, quote, the recruitment and hiring process for all Safe Streets sites is led by Mosby and engages stakeholders, including Mosby, BPD, and community members. It says we should ask Mosby for more information about the hiring process. Now, Fox 45 News has reached out to Mosby about Safe Streets hiring practices. They've told us while the office has a hand in the screening process, they do not hire for Safe Streets, and Safe Streets workers are not city employees.
We're also pressing the City Council about oversight of Safe Streets. Most members of the Baltimore City Council support an audit, but don't necessarily right now support an independent investigation of the program. The council can play a big role in figuring out what's going on, so we sent members of the City Council the following questions. Should city funding for Safe Streets be suspended until there is an audit or investigation of the program? Do you trust LifeBridge and Catholic Charities with your tax dollars? Given the history of criminal activity in Safe Streets and now the FBI raid, do you support halting Safe Streets activity until an independent investigation or audit of the program? Given the FBI and your organization's refusal to engage with the media, is it time to open the books about the Safe Streets operation? And Fox 45 News is committed to figuring out what's going on with the program for you, the taxpayer. We want to hear from you. Should the Safe Streets program be shut down pending an investigation or audit? You can vote right now by going to our website, foxbaltimore.com/vote.
Fox 45 News has sent more than 30 questions in the past few days trying to get to the bottom of what's really going on. You can read all of our questions and find any answers we get on our website, foxbaltimore.com. And now turning to a city in crisis, from auto thefts to armed robberies week after week in Baltimore, we continue to see brazen acts.
And we see some juveniles at the center of the crime crisis, both as victims and also suspects. The latest incident happened last night. Baltimore police are investigating after they say a crash led to the discovery of a 16-year-old who'd been shot. That teen was later pronounced dead at a local hospital. And now we're learning the homicide apparently stemmed from a robbery or possibly carjacking.
We have live team coverage tonight, beginning with Alexa Ashwell. She's live in Northeast Baltimore, where police say the teen was shot. Alexa?
Yes, Kai, Mary, we've had a lot of new information coming in just the past hour and just the past few minutes. In fact, Baltimore police now identifying this victim as 16-year-old Khalil Jones. According to a police report, the 16-year-old was shot here on Boldy's Lane during a robbery, and the car he and his two friends were riding in when they were attempting to drive him to the hospital had in fact been reported stolen out of Baltimore County 2 days ago. We want to show you more video that we have of this scene here on Boldy's Lane. Remnants of it could be seen. The crime crime tape at the intersection here. Investigators say the teen Jones was shot here after 11 last night. Neighbors reported hearing several gunshots. We now know it was the result of a robbery. Police not releasing further details. A neighborhood leader telling us it was a carjacking that had occurred here. The teens fled that scene, crashing about 3 miles away on Orleans Street. The 18-year-old and 15-year-old who were also in the car told investigators, according to the report, they were attempting to take their friend to the hospital because he had in fact been shot when they were involved in a crash about a half-mile from Johns Hopkins Hospital. Neighbors expressed frustration about the crime.
16, 17, 18, even probably younger than that. There's people that's 13, 14 that's doing crimes and all of that. But really, you have a future in your life. You don't have to do any of this.
Another new piece of information that's just come in. Sources confirm Khalil Jones was in fact involved in the shooting. An off-duty officer, the attempted carjacking of an off-duty officer that resulted in a shooting here in the city back in August. We also looked up the criminal history of the 18-year-old listed in this police report. He too has an open case out of Baltimore County from earlier in October. Keith Daniels will be following this investigation tonight. We'll have the very latest on air and online at foxbaltimore.com. For now, reporting live in Northeast Baltimore, Alexa Ashwell, Fox 45 News.
Thank you, Alexa. This year, 226 people have been killed in Baltimore. 545 have been shot and survived. Those numbers are down from this time last year. However, the city is seeing a spike in car thefts and juvenile crime.
And while some local business owners claim their stores are seeing a rise in robberies, data from BPD tells a different story. According to police, there's been a reduction in robberies this year. As Fox 45's Rebecca Pryor's reporting tonight, it's now causing some to question how crime is actually being categorized. Rebecca?
That's right, Mary. A local business owner and a former Baltimore police commissioner tell me in their experience, crime is climbing. But that's not what BPD is reporting.
The crime is increasing. The problem is increasing.
The manager of this express gas station in West Baltimore, who asked we not share his identity,
It happened 3 times in the same day.
says recently thieves terrorizing his store escalating to a daily occurrence.
Shoplifting before, I remember, like somebody used to steal like one chips, one cake, put it in his jacket pocket, nobody see him. Right now they come and they take it in front of you.
Back in September, the manager showing us this surveillance video capturing a weekend of back-to-back violent encounters.
He'll be looking at you and laughing because they know nobody can stop them.
In one instance, he claims this teen attempting to take off with stolen goods in a stolen car, pointing a gun at him.
If I don't back up quick, maybe he shot fire on me, you know, and he will kill me.
In another, teen seen raiding the shelves, then destroying the shelves, damaging everything they can, in addition to assaulting an elderly employee who's seen here suffering a punch to the jaw.
Break the door, break the shelf, threatening the employee. That's more than shoplifting.
But according to BPD, it's not. In both cases, BPD labeling the incidents as larceny, defined as shoplifting, pocket picking, or the stealing of any property that is not taken by force or violence, instead of a more severe charge of robbery, which does include the threat of force or violence and or putting the victim in fear.
When somebody has a gun and come to your place, that's not like shoplifting. It was more than that.
This time last year, gas station robberies were up 70%. Then quietly, BPD changing how they report robberies. Instead of breaking the data down into 8 separate categories this year, BPD no longer revealing the number of gas station or convenience store robberies to the public. Over the past year, I've sent at least 5 emails asking BPD why their reporting changed. Twice, I was told someone would get back to me. But as of news time tonight, I've received no answers. Meanwhile, this year, overall, BPD reporting robberies down 2%, compared to a 15% increase in larcenies.
That's a fallacy.
Data former Baltimore Police Commissioner Ed Norris claims is being distorted.
From what I've gathered from people, they're being pressured to reduce crime with a pencil, which means, it's an election year, you got to reduce crime. You can't hide murders. But what they can hide is burglaries, robberies, because then it becomes a larceny with a menacing, which is ridiculous. That's not the case.
Both Norris and the store manager agreeing incidents like these rise above a simple shoplifting charge and should be categorized as robberies.
They threaten you with guns, sometimes with they have a stick, with a knife, and they say, oh, it's shoplifting. How's come?
It's a robbery. Someone points a gun or a knife at you or threatens you. So they do a lot of manipulation under pressure, and it's just not right.
Now today I asked BPD to clarify why these incidents weren't categorized as robberies when the store manager says he and his employees were clearly threatened. I also asked for a response to Norris's accusations, but as of Newsroom tonight, I have not heard back. Reporting live in front of BP headquarters, Rebecca Pryor, Fox 45 News.
Rebecca, thank you. Still ahead tonight, a former Maryland leader looking to fill a different position in Washington. We speak with former Delegate Dan Cox about a run for Congress.
And it's cold for trick-or-treating over the next hour or two. Temperatures falling down through the 50s and maybe even into the 40s by the time you're wrapping up your trick-or-treating this evening. Jackets out. I'll let you know we have freeze warnings up for the entire area. It's in my Weather Authority forecast.
Breaking news, the second patient to receive a genetically modified pig heart in a transplant has died. The University of Maryland Medical Center announcing this afternoon the hospital performed the procedure on Lawrence Fawcett 6 weeks ago. The hospital said the 58-year-old's last wish was for them to make the most of what they had learned from the procedure and the experience. He first went to UMMC suffering from heart failure. His heart disease and pre-existing conditions made him ineligible for a traditional human heart transplant. Last year, the hospital performed the first pig heart transplant. The man who received it, David Bennett, died 2 months later.
Cease fire now! Save the children of Gaza! Cease fire now!
Cease fire now! Cease fire now! Stop the war! Cease fire now! Cease fire now!
Well, Capitol Police handcuffing several protesters who interrupted a Senate committee hearing today. In that hearing, lawmakers heard arguments over why the Biden administration says $105 billion in supplemental spending is needed. The request comes as Democrats and Republicans have been at odds over additional spending, with some Republican senators warning the proposal would need to be changed before it reaches the president's desk. The hearing comes as fighting intensifies in the Middle East. Israel's military saying that overnight an airstrike killed a top commander who directed part of the October 7th attack on those at that music festival. This afternoon, we also got word that an Israeli airstrike has struck Gaza's largest refugee camp. It all comes as Israeli forces push deeper into the Gaza Strip. The IDF says it is targeting Hamas rocket launch positions as well as tunnels where ammunition and potentially many hostages are being held. Fox 45 is partnering with Magen David Adom for Sinclair Cares Humanitarian Relief for Israel. That organization is a Red Cross affiliate providing emergency medical aid for all people in Israel. To help, you can scan that QR code on your screen or go to sinclaircares.com. Well, forecasters are warning of potentially record low temperatures across the U.S. as October comes to an end. With freeze warnings in effect for millions, the Baltimore-Washington, D.C. region faces the coldest weather so far this season, with temperatures in the 30s over the next couple of nights. And we are definitely feeling that cool down. Trick-or-treaters have to sort of bundle up tonight or put a turtleneck under the costume. Jonathan's here with more on what the kids need to do to prepare for tonight.
It's time to layer up, and you see all the blue behind me. This is not for tonight. This is for tomorrow night. There is a freeze watch that is area-wide, so gardeners make sure that the plants are brought inside or covered over. Growing season likely for many of us, if not all of us, coming to an end tomorrow night. Now, around here for trick-or-treating, we're going to need layers, layers, layers. Salisbury South and East, they're going to need umbrellas there, but thankfully that latest weather maker that came through here yesterday afternoon, yesterday evening, taking the temperatures down to the 80s, down to the 50s today, and giving us some of the showers. Well, that is moving down the Delmarva. There's snow and ice, if you wouldn't believe it, upstate New York, portions of Michigan, back to Chicago. We could get a little piece of that system potentially for late night tonight into early tomorrow morning. Doesn't look like a whole lot out of it. Most of it dries out, but there could be a stray sprinkle in north and west. If it's cold enough, maybe a wet flake too. Wouldn't be totally out of the question. So, Mile 1 Taos Cam right now, mostly cloudy skies, 53. Winds out of the east at about 5. Humidity at 46%. Temperatures low to mid 50s area wide. Temperatures didn't make a whole lot of inroads today, running anywhere between about 10 to even 20, 25, even on the eastern shore, 30 degrees colder than 24 hours ago. Temperature here in Baltimore, 53, which seems warm compared to what's going on here. Cumberland back to Pittsburgh, as well as Cleveland, Columbus, all those temperatures well down into the 40s. And then, of course, there's that snow around Chicago. The warmer weather getting shunted off the coast. Showers here from the Delmarva southbound towards the Tidewater of Virginia. And then there's a reinforcing shot of colder air that comes in again with that potential of a sprinkle or maybe even north and west a flurry late night tonight into early tomorrow morning. And tomorrow temperatures could be even chillier than the mid 50s that we're dealing with today. Now notice the clearing skies early overnight, so this is good for trick-or-treating, but the temperatures are going to be chilly. Back down into the 40s, and maybe even by the time we get out of the evening hours overnight, could be down into the 30s. I think we'll be above freezing most areas. So even as these sprinkles come in, even if they do mix with a flurry or two, it's not going to mean road problems, just kind of window dressing if you get one up there around Westminster and points north and west. But nonetheless, it's cold stuff, and it looks like that is going to remain all the way through the day tomorrow. And then we have those freeze conditions, frost possible all the way into early Thursday morning. Early Friday could have some more patchy frost, and it does get a lot milder, a lot closer to average for the weekend into early next week.
Jonathan, thank you. Anticipation building ahead of another World Series match tonight. Matchup tonight, rather. Morgan Atsit's breaking down all the highlights heading into the big game. It's a game, not a match. Plus, it is the spookiest night of the year. A closer look at a local attraction perfect for horror lovers.
The road through postseason baseball on Fox 45 is sponsored by Johns Hopkins Children's Center.
After 2 games of the World Series, the series was even, but the Diamondbacks looked unstoppable and like a team that should be up 2-0. But as the series headed to Arizona, might not be a good thing for the home team. After being about a .500 team in the regular season on the road, the Rangers have won every road postseason game this October, perfect between Tampa Bay, Baltimore, Houston, and now Arizona. The series is guaranteed to stay through Arizona tomorrow, and then the series will head back to Texas, if necessary, for games 6 and 7 on Friday and Saturday.
Of home for the 2023 World Series. You can watch Game 4 tonight right here, starting with pregame coverage at 7. First pitch just after 8. Coming up after the break, the first steps in the federal trial of former state's attorney Marilyn Mosby. We speak to legal experts on how this could play out. Plus, a vacant mansion burns overnight, resparking the debate over how to handle vacant properties.
Today, jury selection takes place in the federal trial of former Baltimore City State's Attorney Marilyn Mosby.
Marilyn Mosby is facing 4 federal charges, 2 for perjury and 2 for making false statements on loan applications. There will be 2 trials on both sets of those charges. The first trial will focus on the perjury charges.
Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost was in Greenbelt, Prince George's County today for jury selection. She joins us now live with the latest. Mackenzie?
Kai and Mary, it was a pretty slow start to this jury selection, taking quite a few hours today. Marilyn Mosby was there walking in with her defense attorneys earlier this morning as well, as she was sitting right next to them at the table, all while Judge Lydia Grigsby asked potential jurors several questions. And I mean nearly 60 questions. The judge went through asking potential jurors if they had any history with the criminal justice system, what their opinion was on the system, if they had any opinions on law enforcement. And one key question was asked if anyone had withdrawn money from the retirement account using the Federal CARES Act. And that's key because if you remember, this perjury trial really centers around Marilyn Mosby withdrawing money from her retirement account, claiming that she didn't need to pay a penalty covered under the CARES Act because she claimed that she suffered adverse financial hardships during the pandemic. Now, we don't have a full list of the witnesses that has been released to the public. We do know that there are expected to be 19 witnesses called. That's a combination from the prosecution as well as the defense. Jurors were also asked if they knew who Marilyn Mosby was, if they knew who her soon-to-be ex-husband Nick Mosby is, as well as several other specific people like Shalonda Stokes, the president of the Downtown Partnership of Baltimore, Zy Richardson, Marilyn Mosby's former spokesperson, as well as if they had any indication as to who some of Marilyn Mosby's close allies and friends are throughout this jury selection process. Kai?
And Mackenzie, has jury selection been finalized?
No, after all day today, we did take a little bit of a recess from 11:45 to about 1. Jury selection is not finalized. The court scheduled 2 days for this process to be completed, and it looks like that will be what actually plays out. The jury pool will be brought back tomorrow for more rounds of questioning and weeding out potential jurors. The goal is to have this selection finalized by tomorrow afternoon. 12 people on the jury, as well as 4 alternates. And then as it stands right now, opening statements are scheduled to begin Thursday morning in Greenbelt. We're live in the newsroom. Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
Mackenzie, thank you. Stay with Fox 45 News. We'll have complete coverage of the Marilyn Mosby trial each day. Be sure to download the Fox 45 News app and turn on notifications to get breaking developments even when we're not on the air. There is an upcoming vacancy in Maryland's 6th congressional district as Congressman David Trone runs for the Senate. Yesterday, former Maryland Delegate Dan Cox announced his campaign for the opening.
And tonight, Dan is with us to talk about his decision to run for Congress.
Mr. Cox, thank you for joining us. We wanted to talk about why you decided to run and what your platform is.
Well, hello, Kai and Mary. Thanks for the opportunity. You know, the working people of the 6th District are very much hurting from the current economy. The inflation is outrageous. The fact that, you know, our jobs and our incomes are not rising in step with that inflation is a problem. And then when you add to that the debt and the national security crisis that brings, I think it's time that we have excellent leadership. I'd love to and I'm asking for the vote to be your congressman. We'll go from a Congressman Dave to a Congressman Dan, and I think that would be a good thing for this district because I want to bring more to the table to say, why don't we secure our southern border before we start continue sending billions of dollars overseas in a reckless manner while we have our own borders wide open and endangering our communities.
You talked just about some of the national issues. What are some local issues that you want to have an impact on if you make it to Congress?
Well, everyone, it doesn't matter the background, everyone's hurting financially, whether it's putting food on the table or paying a child support or making sure that those payments on the electric bill are done. And so I would like to have an outreach where we will focus on making sure that citizens' voices are heard, making sure that jobs are a priority. Right here in the 6th District, we've lost major sources of income. They go right across the line to West Virginia, where taxes are lower and where the jobs are better. However, our cost of living continues to increase. And so I want to work hard with my colleagues and with those members of Congress to bring jobs back to the 6th District, to make this a place where our employees are once again valued and they can actually have a wage to live on.
Mr. Cox, what would you say to voters out there who might look and remember your presence at the January 6 riots in 2021 and wonder about your commitment to the rule of law in the United States and some of the comments that you made, particularly to then Vice President Mike Pence?
Well, Kai, that's just a false statement that I was at the riots. That's absolutely false. It's defamatory that people keep reporting falsely on this issue because it's not true. I never was there. Going to an event where you have a peaceful assembly to hear a president speak and then leaving is entirely different from what happened down in the Capitol, which I've consistently decried as an outrage, and those who participated obviously should be prosecuted. I continue to advocate in the courts. I mean, I'm a strong believer in the rule of law, and you rightly mentioned that is a concern right now. What do we have right now in our great state of Maryland? Unfortunately, Kai, just a rampant loss of the rule of law where people are suffering in our streets. We have a sincere problem in the city of Hagerstown where we don't even have the ability to staff police officers because of the changes that were made, sadly, in the last couple of years against our police officers. So I want to bring back that discussion to the table and say, let's protect our communities and make sure that we're safe once again.
All right, a lot of issues on the table. Dan Cox, thanks so much for joining us this afternoon. We appreciate it.
Thank you both.
Well, tonight, Baltimore police say reports of a shooting in the Hampden area were unfounded, but one neighbor who spoke to Fox 45 News says otherwise.
I was just scared for my life, you know what I mean? Bullets start flying, you don't know where they're going, you know what I mean?
It was in the Medfield, Hampden area. This comes as we're also hearing concerns about other recent crimes in the area. As Fox 45's Amy Simpson reports, some neighbors are visibly shaken and frustrated.
Damaged cars like this one and this one are just a small glimpse of what happened here in Hampden today. One neighbor telling me repeatedly, enough is enough. It was around lunchtime today when Keith Morgrith says he was walking home from cutting his uncle's grass.
They were young, really young kids. I could tell they were young. In reverse, back and shooting.
This Hampden man standing in the middle of Buena Vista Avenue, explaining what he saw.
One was in burst and one was coming like towards him, you know what I mean? And he was just like this, pow, 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 letting loose inside the car. And then he, boom, plowed this and then went up that street, you know what I mean?
Two cars, one of them in reverse, he says, describing the suspects involved as kids.
It's crazy. These juveniles are out of control. Something's got to be done.
Several parked cars left smashed and sideswiped. Neighbors forced to clean up the mess. In the aftermath, both Baltimore police and Baltimore City Schools police at the scene.
Their school session right now, it's just bullcrap. It's out of control. The mayor's got to do something.
This comes as Fox 45 is also hearing from some along the avenue in Hampden.
I just think that all this crime needs to stop.
Sharing concerns about recent crimes and their sense of safety.
It's unsettling. Like, I'm not used to seeing police cars, period. So to see crime scenes and robberies.
According to BPD, a man sitting in his backyard around 2 a.m. Monday was assaulted and robbed by three men. And around 10:15 Monday morning, also along the avenue, police confirming reports of a bank robbery. They say the suspect was a woman.
It's scary. It's scary to even walk the streets at nighttime, go to the store. It's scary. It really is.
Back along Buena Vista this afternoon, this lifelong Baltimorean speaking out about crime citywide.
People getting robbed, carjacked. It's enough's enough. So it's got to be a change.
Telling Fox 45 News what he thinks needs to happen.
We need a new mayor. We need a new mayor. It's got to be a change. It has to be a change for something. You know what I mean? This crime's got to be cleaned up.
Amy Simpson, Fox 45 News.
Looking at what's left after a fire last night and an abandoned mansion in West Baltimore, the massive fire in the vacant building is intensifying the debate over what Baltimore should do with its abandoned and vacant homes. There are thousands of them. Fox 45's Maxine Stryker has a closer look at what is left.
The fire department remains here on the scene, trying to saturate those burns after last